The year was 2187. 100 years of peace had changed Earth. After the terrible climate wars, humans finally learned to work together. The great military powers of old, America, Russia, China, and others, had put away their weapons. They kept only small forces for peacekeeping. The war giants of Earth slept. Dr. James Reed yawned as he checked the screens at the Global Space Monitoring Station. His job at SETI was usually quiet. For decades, they had listened to the stars, hoping to hear something. Anything. Most days were the same. Silence from space, coffee, more silence, lunch, and then home. But today was different. "That's odd," James muttered, adjusting his glasses. A pattern of signals appeared on his screen, repeating in a way that couldn't be natural. "Computer, analyze this signal pattern." The computer hummed. "Signal contains mathematical sequences. Pattern suggests artificial origin." James sat up straight, suddenly wide awake. He pressed the emergency button on his console, sending alerts to his team members. Within an hour, the monitoring room was full. Scientists crowded around screens, talking excitedly. Dr. Lisa Moore, the head of signal analysis, typed quickly at her station. "It's definitely not from Earth or any of our colonies on Mars or the Moon," she said. "The signal is coming from a star system about 15 light-years away." "Can we decode it?" James asked. Lisa nodded. "The first part seems to be a kind of universal translation code based on mathematics." "Smart. They're teaching us how to understand them." For 3 days, the best minds on Earth worked to decode the message. They slept at their desks and barely ate. When they finally broke through, the room fell silent as the message appeared on the main screen. It was an SOS. "This is an emergency broadcast from the Valari High Council," James read aloud. "Our worlds are under attack by a species called the Draken. They destroy everything in their path. We have lost 3 colony planets. Billions dead. Our homeworld will fall within months." The scientists looked at each other in shock as James continued reading. "The Draken moved through space on a clear path. After us, they will keep going. Eventually, they will reach your system. We send this warning to all worlds in their path." Lisa pointed to the next part. "Look at this. They've included information about themselves and the Draken. Physical appearance, technology, weapons. But why send this to us specifically?" asked another scientist. "We're not a military power anymore. Earth hasn't fought a real war in a century." James scrolled down to the final part of the message. His face went pale. "They found old signals from Earth," he said slowly. "From our war times. They've been studying us." He looked up at his colleagues. "The Valari chose us because they saw our war records from the 21st century. They think we're warriors." "But we're not anymore," Lisa said. James finished reading the message. "You are the only hope, humans of Earth. Our probes show that your kind possesses something the Draken do not understand. The ability to fight against impossible odds. The ability to win when you should lose. We beg you, wake your warriors. The galaxy needs the war giants of Earth." The room was completely silent. Then the emergency phone rang. James picked it up. "Yes, Mr. President," he said. "Yes, it's real." "Yes, sir. We'll send everything right away." He put the phone down and looked at his team. "The United Earth Council is meeting in 1 hour," he said. "They want all the data we have." As the scientists rushed to prepare their findings, James stared at the star map showing the Draken's path of destruction. The line of conquered worlds formed an arrow, and it was pointing directly at Earth. The war giants would need to wake up. The United Earth Council chamber had never been so full. Leaders from every nation sat around the large round table. Their faces were grim. On the big screen, the alien message from the Valari played again. Admiral Tom Wilson stood at the back of the room. He was old now, almost 80. His uniform felt tight after years of not wearing it. They had called him out of retirement for this meeting. He was the last person alive who had commanded Earth's combined military forces before they were shut down. "Admiral Wilson," said President Garcia, "please tell us what we're dealing with." Tom walked slowly to the center of the room. His back was straight, his eyes clear. Once a warrior, always a warrior. "The Valari have given us information about the Draken ships and weapons," he said. "Based on this data, they are more advanced than us in space travel. But their weapons," he smiled a little, "their weapons are not so different from what we used to have." "Used to have," repeated the Chinese representative. "But our war machines have been sleeping for almost 100 years. Can we wake them?" Tom nodded. "The orbital defense platforms are still there. We kept them maintained, just in case. The underground factories can be restarted. The military AI systems are in sleep mode but intact." A murmur went through the room. Most of the younger leaders had never even seen these systems active. "Are you suggesting we go to war?" asked the European leader. "Earth has been peaceful for a century. We don't even have trained soldiers anymore." "We have veterans," Tom said, "and we have the plans. We can rebuild." Dr. Lisa Moore, who had been invited to the meeting, stood up. "There's something else you should know," she said. She pressed a button, and a map of the galaxy appeared on the screen. A red line showed the path of the Draken. "We've analyzed the Draken's invasion route," she said. "They are moving in a straight line through the galaxy. If they continue," she pointed at the end of the red line. It ended at a small yellow dot. "Earth. They will reach us in about 4 years," she said, "whether we help the Valari or not." The room exploded with voices. Some wanted to hide, to hope the Draken would pass them by. Others wanted to flee, to send colony ships to distant stars. A few, a very few, wanted to fight. President Garcia raised her hand for silence. "Admiral Wilson," she said, "if we decide to help, how long would it take to get our defenses ready?" Tom thought for a moment. 1 year to reactivate the orbital platforms. 2 years to build a fleet that could meet the Draken beyond our solar system. And our chances of winning. Tom looked at the data from the Valari again. "Unknown," he said honestly, "but better if we fight them far from Earth, and better if we fight them with allies." The debate raged for hours. Tom stood silently, watching the leaders argue. Finally, President Garcia called for a vote. One by one, the nations voted. Russia, yes. China, yes. United African States, yes. European Union, no. South American Alliance, yes. North American Union, undecided. The final vote rested with President Garcia herself, representing North America. She stood up slowly. "My grandparents told me stories about the last wars," she said, "about the horror and the pain. We swore never again." She paused. "But they also told me that sometimes you must fight to remain free, that some enemies cannot be reasoned with." She took a deep breath. North America votes yes. The motion passes. Tom felt a weight lift from his shoulders, and a new one settle in its place. "Admiral Wilson," said President Garcia, "you are hereby reactivated to full duty. Wake the giants, build our defenses, prepare Earth for war." That night, lights came on in bases that had been dark for decades. Deep under the mountains, factory computers hummed to life. In orbit, the silent defense platforms began to power up. On his way to the old Pentagon building, Tom looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Draken were coming, and for the first time in a century, Earth was preparing to fight back. The war giants were waking up. 3 weeks after Earth decided to wake its war giants, the alarm sounded at the space monitoring station. A small ship had entered the solar system, moving fast toward Earth. "Is it the Draken?" asked President Garcia, joining Admiral Wilson in the command center. Tom shook his head. "Too small, and it's not trying to hide." He pointed to the screen. "Look at its path. It's heading straight for us, sending signals ahead." Dr. James Reed studied the incoming transmission. "It's using the same code as the Valari message," he said. "They're identifying themselves as Valari." Everyone in the room looked at each other. First contact with an alien species was about to happen. The small ship was damaged. Its hull showed burn marks from weapons fire. It barely made it to the space dock in Earth orbit. When the airlock opened, medical teams rushed forward. The alien that stumbled out was tall and thin. Its skin was pale blue, with 4 arms and 2 legs. It wore a silver uniform with burn holes. Dark purple blood stained its side. "Help," it said in broken English, clearly learned from Earth broadcasts. "Please." Before falling unconscious, the alien handed over a small data device. Later, in the medical center, the alien woke up. Earth doctors had managed to treat its wounds, guessing at its biology. "Thank you," it said, sitting up slowly. "I am Ren, ambassador of the Valari High Council." Ren looked around the room. "What is left of it?" President Garcia stepped forward. "I am President Garcia of Earth. We received your people's message." Ren nodded. "Good. There was no way to know if it reached you." The alien's voice was soft but clear. "I escaped when the Draken attacked our main colony. It was the last one." "What about your home world?" asked Admiral Wilson. Ren's 4 hands made a gesture of sadness. "Fallen. 2 weeks ago. The Draken move quickly once they begin an attack." The room was silent. An entire civilization gone. "Why did you come to us?" asked Lisa Moore. "Your message said you found old Earth transmissions, but what made you think we could help?" Ren touched the data device. "This contains everything we know about the Draken. Their ships, weapons, tactics." The alien looked at Admiral Wilson. "But more importantly, it explains why we chose Earth." The data played on the screen. It showed old Earth wars, tanks rolling across deserts, ships fighting on oceans, planes dropping bombs. "The Valari were always peaceful," Ren explained. "We spread through the stars making friends, trading knowledge. When the Draken came, we tried to talk. They answered with death." Admiral Wilson frowned. "So you needed someone who knows how to fight?" "Yes." Ren stood up, still weak. "The Draken have conquered 17 star systems. They have destroyed 4 species completely. No one has ever beaten them." "And you think we can?" asked President Garcia. Ren pointed to the war images. "Humans are different. You fight in ways the Draken would not understand. You use tricks. You hide. You attack when you should retreat. You sacrifice small battles to win larger ones." The alien touched another button. The screen showed the Draken for the first time. Large, reptile-like creatures with black scales and 4 eyes. The Draken are strong but simple in their thinking. They attack head-on, overwhelming with numbers. They have never faced an enemy who thinks sideways. Admiral Wilson studied the Draken ships. "How much time do we have?" 8 months before their scouts reach your outer planets," Ren said. 1 year before the main fleet arrives." Wilson nodded. "Then we have work to do." President Garcia turned to the alien. "Ambassador Ren, Earth will help. We will fight the Draken. But we need everything you know about them." Ren's 4 arms made a new gesture, something like hope. "The Valari believe humans were special," the alien said. "Now I see it too. You are not afraid." Admiral Wilson smiled grimly. "Oh, we're afraid. But that never stopped us before." Outside the window, Earth's orbital shipyards were already glowing with new activity. The war giants were not just awake now. They were getting ready to fight. Earth changed overnight. Factories that once made cars now built ship parts. Schools that taught art and science now also taught military training. The sleeping war giants were not just awake. They were running. General Mark Davis stood on the observation deck of the orbital station, watching the work below. 50 years ago, these defense platforms had been shut down. Now they glowed with new life. Workers floated around them in spacesuits, adding new weapons and shields. "We're ahead of schedule, sir," said his assistant. "Platform 7 will be online tomorrow." Mark nodded. "Good. What about the ships?" "6 hulls are ready, but we're still working on the weapons systems." Mark frowned. The Valari technology was advanced, but it wasn't working well with Earth systems. If they couldn't solve this problem, their ships would be no match for the Draken. In the main research lab on the moon, Engineer Ben Foster stared at the broken pieces of Valari technology. Ambassador Wren stood nearby, all 4 hands moving nervously. "Your energy weapons are amazing," Ben said, "but they're not connecting with our power systems." Wren's blue face looked worried. "Without these weapons, your ships will not damage Draken shields." Ben picked up an old Earth weapon, a small railgun that fired metal at high speeds. "What about these? The Valari don't use physical weapons like this." "No," said Wren. "Energy weapons are more advanced." Ben smiled. "Sometimes the old ways work best." He held up the railgun next to the Valari energy weapon. "What if we combine them? Use your energy to power our physical weapons." Wren's eyes widened. "That has never been tried." 3 days later, Admiral Wilson watched as the test target exploded. The new weapon, now called a fusion railgun, had torn through the shield like it wasn't there. "It worked," Ben shouted, his face covered in sweat and engine oil. "The Valari energy makes our projectiles move faster than anything in history. Nothing can stop them." Admiral Wilson smiled for the first time in weeks. "Get these on the ships." Now, in the training center, 5,000 pilots practiced in virtual reality pods. The simulations used everything Wren had shared about Draken flying patterns. Captain Anna West emerged from her pod, throwing her helmet down in frustration. "They still beat me," she said to her instructor. "The Draken have been fighting in space for centuries." The instructor replied, "You've had 6 weeks." Anna grabbed the helmet again. "Run it one more time. I'm going to try something different." This time, she didn't follow the training manual. Instead, she used an old Earth fighter jet tactic from the 21st century, a move called Pugachev's Cobra. Her ship flipped backward as the Draken passed, putting her behind them. The simulation ended with a victory. The instructor stared at the screen. "What did you just do?" Anna smiled. "I stopped thinking like a space pilot and started thinking like a human." The word spread. Soon, Earth pilots were using tactics from ancient naval battles, desert warfare, even animal hunting patterns. The Draken simulations couldn't predict these moves. 3 months later, the first Earth defense fleet was ready. 6 massive battleships, built with Valari technology but human design, floated above Earth. Each carried 200 smaller fighter ships and weapons that no one in the galaxy had ever seen before. On the bridge of the flagship, named Defender, Admiral Wilson addressed the crews of all ships by video. "For 100 years, Earth has been at peace," he said. "We thought our days of war were over. We were wrong." He looked at the star map showing the Draken approach. "But we are not fighting for glory or land or resources. We are fighting for our right to exist." Ambassador Wren stood beside him, now wearing a human-style uniform with the Earth Defense Force emblem. "The enemy expects us to wait here, to defend our home," Wilson continued. "But that is not the human way." He pointed to a spot beyond Neptune. "We will meet them there, far from Earth. We will show them that waking the war giants of Earth was their biggest mistake." The engines of the 6 ships glowed blue. Earth's first interstellar war fleet moved away from orbit, heading to the edge of the solar system. The sword had been forged. Now it was time to use it. Beyond the orbit of Neptune, Earth's 6 warships waited in the darkness. They had been there for 3 weeks, all systems running silent. Only their special sensors, built with Valari technology, were active. On the bridge of the Defender, Captain Anna West stared at the empty screen. She had been given command of the scout ship Swift, which now flew 10 million miles ahead of the main fleet. "Anything?" she asked her sensor officer. Nothing yet, he replied. Wait. He sat up straight. Contact. 3 ships moving fast toward the solar system. Anna's heart beat faster. Size. Small. Scout ships, just like the Valari said they would send first. She opened a channel to Admiral Wilson. Defender, this is Swift. We have contact. Draken scout ships, 3 of them, just as expected. Wilson's voice came back calm and clear. Roger that, Swift. You know what to do. Anna took a deep breath. All hands to battle stations. Power up weapons but keep them masked. Let's follow the plan. The Swift remained hidden as the Draken scouts passed. Then, using minimal power, Anna's ship followed them. The plan was simple. Let the scouts think they were alone. Study their movements. Then attack when they least expected it. For 2 days, the Swift shadowed the Draken. The alien ships moved with confidence, not bothering to hide. They don't think anyone can challenge them, Anna said to her crew. That's their weakness. When the Draken scouts split up to cover more area, Anna made her move. The Swift accelerated quickly, coming up behind the smallest scout ship. Fire fusion railguns, she ordered. The new weapons fired with barely a sound. Metal rounds, charged with Valari energy, crossed the space between ships in seconds. The Draken scout exploded without even sending a distress signal. 1 down, Anna said. Move to the next target. The second Draken ship noticed something was wrong. It turned, weapons charging. But it was looking in the wrong direction. Humans didn't fight the way Valari did. The Swift came from below, firing again. The second scout exploded. The third Draken ship was already running, sending signals ahead. It's warning the main fleet, said the communications officer. Anna nodded. That's okay. Let it go. We've learned what we needed to. Back on the Defender, Admiral Wilson studied the battle recordings. Ambassador Wren watched with wide eyes. 2 ships destroyed so quickly, Wren said. The Valari never managed to destroy even 1 Draken ship. Wilson pointed to the screen. Look how they move. They expect attacks from the front. They don't guard their backs or below. Because no one in our part of the galaxy fights that way, Wren replied. Space battles are usually direct, ship facing ship. Wilson smiled. Humans learned to fight in 3 dimensions long ago. In our oceans, we're used to attacks from any direction. The third Draken scout had escaped, but it had been damaged. Earth ships followed its trail, learning more about Draken technology from the debris it left behind. When the Swift returned to the fleet, the crews celebrated their first victory, but Admiral Wilson called his captains to a meeting. The main Draken fleet will be here in 2 weeks, he said. The scout has warned them. They know we're waiting. How many ships? Asked Captain Frank Miller of the warship Thunder. According to the Valari data, at least 50, Wilson said. The room went quiet. 6 Earth ships against 50 Draken warships. We can't win a direct fight, Wilson continued, so we won't fight directly. He brought up a map of the solar system. We'll use the asteroid belt. We'll use the moons of Jupiter. We'll use everything we have. He pointed to different spots on the map, explaining the plan. When he finished, there was silence. It's crazy, said Captain Miller finally. It breaks every rule of space combat. Exactly, Wilson replied. The Draken know the rules. They fought by them for centuries. But humans, he smiled. Humans have always been good at breaking rules. As the meeting ended, Anna looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the main Draken fleet was coming. The real war was about to begin. The first contact had drawn first blood. Human blood would follow. The Draken fleet arrived exactly as Admiral Wilson had predicted. 50 warships, moving in a tight formation. They entered the solar system like a dark cloud, their black ships blocking the stars behind them. They're not hiding at all, said Captain Miller on the bridge of the Thunder. They want us to see them coming. Admiral Wilson nodded. Pride. They've never lost a war. They don't think they need to be careful. The 6 Earth ships were nowhere to be seen. They had hidden themselves in the asteroid belt, engines off, waiting. All ships maintain silence, Wilson ordered. Let them come to us. The Draken fleet moved deeper into the solar system, passing the orbit of Neptune. Their formation was perfect, like a wall of death moving toward Earth. Wilson watched on his screen as they approached the asteroid belt. "Get ready," he whispered. The lead Draken ship suddenly stopped. It had detected something. "Now," Wilson shouted. From inside the largest asteroids, Earth ships fired all weapons. The fusion railguns tore through the front line of Draken ships, catching them by surprise. 5 enemy ships exploded before they could raise their shields. "Break formation," Wilson ordered. "Execute Operation Hornet Nest." The Earth ships shot out from their hiding places, racing between asteroids. They fired quick shots at the Draken fleet, then disappeared again. The Draken ships tried to follow, but they were too big to move quickly between the rocks. When they fired their weapons, they often hit asteroids instead of Earth ships. "They're getting frustrated," said Ambassador Wren, watching from the command center on Earth. "Look how they're breaking formation." The Draken fleet split into smaller groups, trying to chase the Earth ships. It was exactly what Wilson wanted. Commander Jack Reynolds led the smallest Earth ship, the Wasp, directly toward the Draken command ship. His vessel was fast and hard to see, with special plating that absorbed enemy sensors. "This is crazy," muttered his co-pilot as they flew straight at the massive enemy vessel. Jack smiled. "That's why it's going to work." Using the confusion of the battle as cover, the Wasp slipped under the Draken command ship. Jack's team attached special explosive devices to the bottom hull, a spot the Draken never bothered to shield. "Packages delivered," Jack reported, falling back now. As the Wasp retreated, the explosives detonated. They didn't destroy the Draken command ship, but they damaged its communication systems. Now the Draken fleet couldn't coordinate their attacks. But the Drakens still had numbers on their side. 3 Earth ships took heavy damage as the battle continued. The Thunder lost its main engines and drifted helplessly. "We can't hold them much longer," Captain Miller reported as his ship burned. "They're adapting to our tactics." Wilson looked at the battle map. The Draken had pushed past the asteroid belt. Their remaining ships, still more than 30, were heading toward Mars. "Fall back to Mars position," he ordered. "Activate the orbital platforms." Around Mars, 20 defense platforms had been hidden. As the Earth ships retreated past them, the platforms powered up. When the Draken fleet arrived, they were caught in crossfire. For hours, the battle raged around the Red Planet. Earth lost 2 more ships. Hundreds of crew members died. But the Draken lost more. 15 ships destroyed, 10 heavily damaged. Then the Draken did something unexpected. Their remaining ships gathered together and fired all weapons at Mars itself. The planet's surface erupted as the energy beams hit. "What are they doing?" Wilson asked. "There's nothing important on Mars." "They're sending a message," Wren said quietly. "They're showing what they'll do to Earth." Wilson watched as the Draken fleet regrouped. They had lost half their ships, but they were still strong enough to reach Earth. And now they were angry. "All remaining ships, fall back to Earth," Wilson ordered. "Activate all defense systems. This is not over." As Earth's battered fleet retreated, Wilson sent a message to Earth. "The Draken are coming. They've been bloodied, but they're still coming." The final battle for humanity would happen at Earth itself. The war giants were fully awake now, and fighting for their lives. Earth glowed blue and green against the blackness of space. Around it, the last 3 ships of the Earth Defense Fleet took position. Behind them, the orbital defense platforms formed a protective ring. Admiral Wilson stood on the bridge of the Defender, looking at the damage reports. His ship had lost half its weapons. The crew was tired, but they were ready. "The Draken fleet will be here in 6 hours, he told his officers. "They have 25 ships left. We have 3, plus the platforms. "Can we win?" asked Captain Anna West, now serving as his second-in-command after her own ship was destroyed. Wilson didn't answer directly. President Garcia is about to address everyone. On all screens throughout the fleet and on Earth, President Garcia appeared. Her face was tired but determined. "People of Earth," she said, "today we face the greatest threat in human history. The Draken have destroyed worlds before ours. They thought we would be easy to conquer, like the others." She paused. They were wrong. Images showed the battles so far, the destroyed Draken ships, the victories in the asteroid belt and around Mars. "We have hurt them," Garcia continued, "but now they come to Earth itself. Admiral Wilson and our brave fleet will meet them. But if they fail, we have one last defense." The screen showed something that had been kept secret until now. The old nuclear weapons platforms that Earth had built during its last wars. They had been modified, turned into space weapons. "We hoped never to use these again," Garcia said. "But we will not let the Draken take our world." In space, the Draken fleet appeared. Their ships were damaged but still powerful. They moved toward Earth in attack formation. "All ships, prepare to engage," Wilson ordered. "Remember your training. Remember what we're fighting for." The last battle began. Earth ships darted between the larger Draken vessels, using the tactics that had worked before. But the Draken had learned. They protected their weak spots now. They watched for attacks from below. 2 hours into the battle, the Earth ship Courage exploded. An hour later, the Hope lost its weapons and had to retreat. Only the Defender remained, fighting alongside the orbital platforms. "We can't hold them," Anna said as another hit shook the bridge. "There are too many." Wilson looked at the battle map. The Draken were pushing through, heading straight for Earth. In minutes, they would be in range to attack the planet itself. "We have one option left," he said quietly. He opened a secure channel to Earth. "President Garcia, this is Wilson. Authorized nuclear platform Alpha." There was a pause. "Authorization granted," came the response. "God be with you, Admiral." Wilson turned to Ambassador Wren, who had insisted on joining the final battle. "You said the Draken homeworld coordinates were in the data you brought." Wren nodded. "Yes, but why?" "Because we're not going to use the nuclear platform on these ships," Wilson said. "We're going to use it differently." He turned to Anna. "Captain West, I'm giving you a direct order. Take Wren and the coordinates and get to the escape pod." "What?" "No, I'm staying." "That's an order," Wilson said firmly. "Someone needs to lead what comes next." He looked at the battle map again. "We're going to clear a path for you." Before Anna could argue more, Wilson ordered all remaining weapons to fire at one spot in the Draken line. A hole opened briefly. "Go now," he shouted. The escape pod launched through the gap, carrying Anna and Wren away from the battle. Wilson then did something the Draken never expected. He ordered the Defender to ram the largest enemy ship. At the same time, he activated the nuclear platform, not to fire at the Draken, but to self-destruct in the middle of their fleet. The explosion was visible from Earth's surface. When the light faded, most of the Draken ships were gone. The few that remained turned and fled. 3 months later, a new Earth fleet launched, 20 ships built using everything they had learned. Captain Anna West, now Admiral West, stood on the bridge of the new flagship, named Wilson. "Set course for the Valari colonies," he ordered. "It's time to free them." Ambassador Wren, now dressed in an Earth uniform with captain's rank, nodded. "And after that?" Anna looked at the star map showing the Draken territory. "After that, we take the fight to them." The Draken woke the war giants of Earth. "Now they'll see us fully awake." The fleet jumped to light speed, carrying humanity's power to the stars. Earth had found its new place in the galaxy, not just as a world of peace, but as a protector of those who couldn't defend themselves. The war giants were awake, and the galaxy would never be the same. The alert siren echoed through the small command center of Colony Vega 7. Red lights flashed across the worried faces of the staff. Governor Wilson gripped the edge of the main console, his knuckles turning white as he stared at the monitor. "How many ships?" he asked, his voice steady despite the fear in his eyes. Officer Bell checked the readings again. "At least 50, sir. Maybe more behind them. They're not responding to any of our signals." Outside the windows of the command center, Vega 7 looked peaceful. The colony had grown well over the past 15 years. 10,000 people now called this distant planet home. Farms spread across the fertile valleys, and the small city gleamed in the light of the setting sun. None of the colonists knew about the danger approaching from above. "Launch the defense drones," ordered Wilson. Bell pressed several buttons on her console. "Drones launching now, sir." Everyone in the room knew the colony's defenses were too weak. The drones were designed to handle small threats or meteorites, not a fleet of unknown ships. Humanity had been at peace for so long that most colonies only had basic protection. The main screen showed 20 small drones rising from their launch pads. They formed a defensive line in the upper atmosphere, ready to meet the incoming ships. "Time to contact?" Wilson asked. 4 minutes, replied Bell. Wilson turned to his communications officer. "Tom, send a message to Earth. Tell them we have unknown vessels approaching with possible hostile intent. Request immediate assistance." Officer Tom nodded and began typing the message. After a moment, he looked up with concern. "Sir, the message will take 3 days to reach Earth. Even if they send help immediately, it would be a week before anyone arrives." Wilson's shoulders dropped slightly. "Send it anyway." The room fell silent as they watched the screen. The unknown ships continued their approach without slowing. When the drones came within range, they fired warning shots across the path of the lead ship. The response was immediate and terrifying. Beams of energy shot out from the alien vessels, destroying 15 drones in seconds. The remaining drones fired their weapons, but their shots simply bounced off the hulls of the approaching ships. "They've destroyed most of our drones," Bell reported, her voice shaking. Wilson closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them, determination had replaced his fear. "Get all colonists to the emergency shelters. Now." As the evacuation alert began blaring across the colony, Wilson walked to a small panel on the far wall of the command center. He placed his hand on the scanner, and a hidden compartment slid open. Inside was a simple device, covered in dust. None of the officers had ever seen it before. "Sir, what is that?" asked Tom. "A last resort," Wilson replied. "Something my predecessor told me about when I took this position. It's an old emergency system from before the peace accords." Wilson pulled out the device and placed it on the main console. It was a small transmitter with a single red button. The words "Omega Protocol" were stamped on its side. "The ships will enter our atmosphere in 2 minutes," Bell announced. Wilson looked at his staff. "History says humans weren't always peaceful. Once, we built terrible weapons to protect ourselves. Most were destroyed during the peace accords, but some were hidden away, just in case." He pressed the button. The device hummed to life, sending out a signal on a frequency that hadn't been used in centuries. The SOS pattern was simple: 3 short bursts, 3 long, 3 short, repeating over and over as it traveled through space at incredible speed. "Will anyone hear it?" Tom asked. Wilson watched as the first alien ship entered the atmosphere. "I don't know, but if the stories are true, we better hope they do." Far away, in a forgotten asteroid base deep in an abandoned star system, something ancient received the signal. Systems that had been dormant for 400 years began to power up. Lights flickered on in dark corridors. The emergency had come at last. The war machines were awakening. Deep within asteroid base Delta, the ancient facility hummed with renewed energy. Dust particles danced in the air as ventilation systems activated for the first time in centuries. In the central control room, a holographic interface flickered to life, displaying the incoming SOS signal. "Emergency Protocol Omega activated. announced a calm, synthetic voice. Threat level: extinction. Revival sequence initiated. The AI system known as Atlas ran a quick diagnostic of the base. Most systems were functioning at 78% efficiency despite the centuries of dormancy. In the lower levels, massive machinery began the careful process of reviving the human occupants from stasis. Pod 01 hissed as its seal broke. Inside, Commander James Reed's eyes snapped open. His first breath was painful, burning his lungs after 400 years of artificial sleep. Medical systems pumped revival drugs into his bloodstream as the pod's interior warmed. "Commander Reed," Atlas spoke through the pod's speakers, "your vital signs are stabilizing. Please remain calm during the revival process." Reed's military training took over. He controlled his breathing and allowed the automated systems to complete the revival sequence. When the pod finally opened, he sat up slowly, flexing his fingers and testing his muscles. "Atlas," Reed's voice was hoarse from disuse. "Report situation." The AI projected a holographic display in front of Reed. Time elapsed since stasis initiation: 412 years, 7 months, 3 days. Emergency Protocol Omega activated by Colony Vega 7 at coordinates 27 to 3844. Colony under attack by unknown hostile force. Reed swung his legs over the side of the pod, wincing at the stiffness in his joints. The revival drugs were working quickly, but his body still felt alien after centuries of sleep. "Show me the signal," he ordered. Atlas displayed the SOS message along with satellite imagery of Vega 7. Reed watched as alien ships descended upon the colony. His jaw tightened at the sight of the defense drones being destroyed so easily. "What's the current state of humanity?" Reed asked as he slowly stood and began walking toward a storage locker marked with his name. "Humanity has expanded to 47 star systems," Atlas reported. "Military forces reduced by 94% following the peace accords of 3130. Most weapons systems decommissioned or destroyed. Defense capabilities limited to basic planetary shields and small drone fleets." Reed opened the locker and found his old uniform, preserved perfectly. "And they've forgotten about us, haven't they?" Facility Delta has been classified as decommissioned for 382 years. Historical records of the machine wars have been minimized in public education. As Reed dressed, he thought about the irony. The weapons and soldiers that humanity had feared and hidden away were now possibly their only hope. "Wake the others," Reed ordered. "Technician Morgan, Strategist Taylor, and Specialist Grant first." While Atlas began the revival sequence for the rest of Reed's team, he made his way to the command center. The corridors were dark, with only emergency lighting casting long shadows. His footsteps echoed in the emptiness, a reminder of how long this place had been abandoned. The command center doors opened automatically as he approached. Inside, screens displayed information about the current state of the facility and the ongoing situation at Vega 7. Reed placed his hand on the main console, activating his command override. The entire room lit up, systems fully coming online. A large holographic map appeared in the center, showing the base's location relative to Vega 7. "Atlas, how long will it take us to reach the colony?" Reed asked. "The Retribution can reach Vega 7 in 72 hours at maximum speed," the AI replied. Reed nodded slowly. The Retribution, his old command ship, one of the most powerful warships ever built by human hands. The thought of seeing it again filled him with both dread and anticipation. Behind him, the doors slid open. Technician Lisa Morgan entered, still pale from the revival process but alert. "Commander," she said with a nod. "Atlas says we're being awakened for the emergency protocol." "We are," Reed confirmed, gesturing to the screens showing the alien attack. "Humanity needs the monsters it locked away." Morgan's eyes widened as she looked at the footage. "Those ships, their technology is unlike anything I've seen. That's why we're going to show them something they've never seen either," Reed said grimly. It's time to wake the war machines. Commander Reed led his team through the dark corridors of Facility Delta. Strategist Marcus Taylor and weapons specialist Thomas Grant had now joined Reed and Morgan. All four wore their old military uniforms, moving with increasing confidence as their bodies fully recovered from stasis. "The main hangar is just ahead," Reed said, stopping at a massive sealed door. "Atlas, open hangar bay 1. "Security verification required," Atlas responded. "All four command staff must provide authorization." The team placed their hands on the scanner panel. The system hummed as it read their biometric signatures. After a moment, the massive door began to slide open with a deep, rumbling sound. As the door opened, darkness greeted them. Then, one by one, lights began to activate, revealing what lay beyond. "My God," whispered Taylor. "I'd almost forgotten how many we had." The hangar was enormous, stretching for nearly a kilometer in every direction. Rows upon rows of war machines stood in perfect formation. Towering battle mechs, each standing 30 meters tall, their metal bodies gleaming under the lights. Sleek fighter ships designed for both space and atmospheric combat. Autonomous combat drones arranged in neat squares. Grant walked forward, running his hand along the leg of the nearest mech. "The Titan-class combat units. We only deployed these during the final battles of the machine wars. They were deemed too destructive," Morgan added, checking a nearby console. "Too efficient at killing." Reed nodded grimly. "That's why they're here. That's why we're here." When the peace accords were signed, the public wanted all weapons of war destroyed. The military leaders knew better. They knew peace never lasts forever. Taylor activated his data pad, accessing the facility's inventory. "We have 50 Titan-class mechs, 200 Phoenix fighters, over 1,000 autonomous drones, and—" He paused, eyes widening. "And the Retribution itself." Reed looked toward the far end of the hangar, where another massive door stood closed. Beyond it was the crown jewel of humanity's war machine arsenal, the Retribution, a warship nearly a kilometer long, armed with weapons that could level entire cities. "We won't need all of this," Reed said. "Not yet, anyway." "Morgan, start activation sequences for 10 Titans and 50 fighters." Grant, prep the drone squadrons. "Taylor, plot our course to Vega 7. The team moved quickly, each heading to different control stations around the hangar. Screens lit up as they worked, and the air filled with the sounds of machinery powering up after centuries of silence. Morgan's fingers flew across the control panel. "Commander, the Titans are at 89% operational capacity. The automated maintenance systems kept them in good shape." "Same with the fighters," Grant called from his station. "Weapons systems fully charged." Reed watched as the giant mechs began to stir. Lights activated in their cockpits, and massive arms moved slightly as diagnostic programs ran. The fighters' engines hummed with energy, their weapons systems cycling through checks. "Atlas," Reed called out, "open the Retribution bay." The far door began to slide upward, revealing the massive warship beyond. Unlike the sleek vessels of the modern human fleets, the Retribution was built for war. Its hull was thick with armor plating. Weapon ports lined its sides, housing energy cannons capable of piercing any known defense. "Beautiful, isn't she?" Reed said softly. "Beautiful and terrible," Taylor replied. "Let's hope we don't have to show what she can really do." Reed turned to his team, his expression serious. "I know none of us expected to wake up again. We went into stasis believing our time was over, that the weapons we built would never be needed. But someone needs us now," Morgan said. Reed nodded. "We have 68 hours before we reach Vega 7. I want all systems checked and rechecked. I want everyone familiar with any upgrades Atlas made to our equipment during dormancy. And if these aliens have already destroyed the colony by the time we arrive?" Grant asked. Reed's eyes hardened. "Then we make them regret ever coming to human space." As if responding to his words, the Titans around them straightened to their full height, metal fingers flexing. The war machines were awake, and they were hungry. The Retribution cut through space like a knife, its ancient engines pushing it to speeds that modern ships could barely match. Commander Reed stood on the bridge, watching the stars streak by on the main view screen. The ship hummed around him, a sound he never thought he would hear again. 48 hours until we reach Vega 7, reported Taylor from the navigation console. All systems functioning at optimal levels. Reed nodded. Any response to our transmission? After leaving Facility Delta, Reed had sent a message on modern military channels, announcing their presence and mission. So far, they had received no reply. Nothing yet, Morgan said from the communication station. Either they don't believe us, or they're too shocked to respond, or they're scrambling to stop us, Grant added from weapons control. The peace accords banned ships like the Retribution. We're technically flying an illegal warship. Reed was about to respond when an alarm sounded. Contact, Taylor announced. Single vessel approaching from Sector 7. Modern design, patrol class. On screen, Reed ordered. The view screen changed to show a sleek, white ship approaching. It was much smaller than the Retribution, with clean lines and minimal weapons, a stark contrast to the bulky, heavily armed warship they commanded. They're hailing us, Morgan said. Reed straightened his uniform, put them through. The screen flickered to show a young officer in a crisp white uniform. The officer's eyes widened at the sight of Reed and his crew in their ancient military uniforms. Unidentified vessel, the officer said, clearly trying to hide his surprise. This is Captain Rivera of the Earth Defense Force Patrol Ship Harmony. You are operating an unauthorized military craft. Identify yourselves immediately. Reed stepped forward. This is Commander James Reed of the Emergency Response Unit Omega, aboard the battleship Retribution. We are responding to an SOS from Colony Vega 7. Rivera looked confused. Emergency Response Unit Omega. There's no such unit in the Defense Force Registry. There wouldn't be, Reed replied calmly. We were established before the peace accords, Captain. Check security protocol Omega 97. Rivera spoke quietly to someone off-screen, then turned back with a pale face. Commander Reed, our records indicate you should be. That is, you were born over 400 years ago. That's correct, Reed confirmed. My team and I were placed in stasis as part of a contingency plan. We've been awakened because Colony Vega 7 is under attack. We received their distress call, Rivera said. A response fleet is already en route, but he hesitated. But they're not equipped for combat, Reed finished for him. How many ships in the response fleet? 5 patrol vessels and 2 medical ships, Rivera admitted. It's all we could assemble quickly. Grant snorted from his station. 7 ships with pea shooters against an alien invasion force. Reed shot him a warning look before turning back to Rivera. Captain, I understand the modern defense force isn't built for warfare. That's precisely why we exist. My team and our equipment were preserved for exactly this kind of situation. Rivera seemed to struggle with this information. Commander, I've been ordered to escort you to Central Command 4. There's no time, Reed interrupted. Colony Vega 7 is under attack now. We'll continue on course. I can't allow that, Rivera said, though he didn't sound convinced of his own authority. Reed's expression hardened. Captain, I respect your position, but my orders predate yours by centuries. We are going to Vega 7. You're welcome to join us, but do not attempt to stop us. To emphasize his point, the weapon ports along the Retribution's hull opened, revealing energy cannons that dwarfed anything on Rivera's patrol ship. After a tense moment, Rivera nodded. Very well, Commander. We'll accompany you to Vega 7. But I must inform command of your situation. Of course, Reed agreed. And ask them to send every ship they can spare. From what we've seen of the alien fleet, they'll need more than just us. As the communication ended, Reed turned to his team. Prepare for possible combat. We don't know what we'll find when we reach Vega 7, or if there will be anything left to save, Taylor said quietly. Reed looked back at the view screen, where the stars continued to streak by. "There will be," he said firmly, "because we'll make the aliens pay for every inch of human ground they've taken." The Retribution dropped out of light speed at the edge of the Vega system. The bridge crew fell silent as the view screen displayed the scene before them. Colony Vega 7 was visible as a small blue-green planet, but large sections of its surface glowed an angry red. "Scan the planet," Reed ordered, his voice tight. Morgan worked quickly at her console. "Massive fires across the main colony area. I'm detecting unusual energy signatures and movement. Lots of movement." "The alien ships?" asked Taylor. "Some in orbit," Morgan confirmed. "But most of the movement is on the surface. They've landed." Grant enhanced the view of the planet's orbit. "I count 15 alien vessels still in space. Different from the ones in the initial report. These are bigger." "What about the Defense Force Response Fleet?" Reed asked. Taylor checked his scanner. 3 ships remain. They're holding position at the far side of the planet. The other 4, he hesitated. "Debris fields, Commander." Reed's jaw tightened. "Any communication from the colony?" "Nothing on standard channels," Morgan replied. "But I'm picking up scattered emergency beacons. There are survivors." Before Reed could respond, Taylor called out, "Commander, the alien ships have detected us. 5 vessels breaking orbit, heading our way." "Battle stations," Reed ordered calmly. "Prepare the Titans for deployment. Launch fighter squadrons 1 through 5. The bridge erupted into activity. Warning signals sounded throughout the ship as crew stations shifted to combat mode. "Enemy ships will be in weapons range in 3 minutes, Grant reported. Reed studied the approaching vessels on the tactical display. They were unlike any alien design he had seen before, irregular shapes with bulging sections and spikes protruding at odd angles. They moved with surprising speed and coordination. "Open a channel to Captain Rivera's ship," Reed ordered. Morgan established the connection, and Rivera's face appeared on a side screen. The young captain looked stressed, his uniform no longer perfectly crisp. "Commander Reed," Rivera said, "we've lost 4 ships already. These things, they're not just ships, they're alive somehow." "Explain," Reed demanded. "The aliens, we're calling them the Swarm. They don't just attack with weapons. When they damaged the Mercy, something burst from their ships and infected it, turned the hull into more of them." Reed exchanged glances with his team. This was worse than they had anticipated. "Captain, pull your remaining ships back to a safe distance," Reed ordered. "We'll handle this." Rivera looked relieved. "Gladly, Commander. Good luck." As the modern ships retreated, the Retribution powered up its main weapons. The ancient warship had been built to face the worst threats humanity could imagine. "Enemy ships entering weapons range," Grant announced. "Open fire," Reed ordered. "All forward batteries." The Retribution shuddered as its massive energy cannons discharged. Beams of concentrated energy lanced out, striking the lead alien vessel. The ship's strange hull absorbed the first hit, glowing brightly but remaining intact. "Increase power," Reed ordered. "Fire again." The second volley hit the same spot with double the energy. This time, the alien ship's hull cracked open, dark fluid spilling into space. The ship writhed as if in pain. "They are alive," Morgan whispered, watching her scans. "Or partially organic at least." The remaining alien ships changed formation, spreading out to surround the Retribution. "Launch the Titans," Reed ordered. "Deploy drones in defensive pattern Delta." From the Retribution's massive hangar bay, 10 Titan-class mechs launched into space. Each 30-meter metal giant was piloted remotely from the ship, armed with weapons designed to destroy entire cities. Alongside them flew swarms of autonomous combat drones, forming protective screens around the larger units. On the view screen, Reed watched as the first Titan engaged an alien ship. The mech's plasma cannon fired, tearing through the organic hull with ease. The alien vessel convulsed, then exploded in a shower of flesh and metal. "The Titans are effective," Grant reported with grim satisfaction. "Their weapons are breaking through the alien hulls." "Commander," Morgan called urgently, "I'm receiving a transmission from the surface." "It's Governor Wilson." "Put him through," Reed ordered. The screen flickered to show a man in a dust-covered uniform, his face haggard. "This is Governor Wilson of Vega 7. Who am I speaking with?" "Commander James Reed, Emergency Response Unit Omega. We received your SOS." Relief washed over Wilson's face. "Thank God. Commander, these things, they're not just destroying us. They're looking for something. They're digging into the ground beneath our main colony." Reed frowned. "Looking for what?" "I don't know," Wilson replied, his transmission beginning to break up. "But they started at the old section, where records show a military installation existed centuries ago." The transmission cut off as an explosion rocked the governor's location. Reed turned to his team, his expression grim. "We need to get to the surface. Now." The sky above Colony Vega 7 filled with fire as the Retribution entered the atmosphere. The massive warship descended through clouds of smoke, its weapons firing continuously at the alien vessels that rose to meet it. Behind the warship came the Titans, their metal bodies glowing red from atmospheric entry. "Target the largest concentrations of the swarm," Reed ordered from the bridge. "Clear a landing zone near the colony center." Grant directed the ship's weapons, laying down a barrage that annihilated dozens of alien creatures. The swarm was visible now. Insect-like beings the size of cars, with multiple limbs and chitinous armor. They moved with frightening coordination, flowing like a living river across the colony's buildings. "Landing zone secured," Taylor reported, "but it won't stay that way for long." Reed nodded. "Morgan, Grant, you're with me. Taylor, you have the bridge." Minutes later, Reed stood in the hangar bay, strapping into his command armor, a powered exoskeleton designed for battlefield control. Morgan and Grant prepared similar suits, while 2 Titans were readied for ground deployment. "Remember, we need to find out what they're looking for," Reed reminded his team as they boarded the dropship. "Whatever's under that colony might be the key to stopping them." The dropship launched from the Retribution, descending rapidly toward the surface. Through the viewport, Reed could see the devastation below. Many buildings were destroyed, while others were covered with a strange, pulsating growth. The once beautiful landscape was scarred with trenches and craters. "My God," Morgan whispered. "They've only been here for 2 days." The dropship landed with a thud, and the team moved out quickly. The 2 Titans stepped from their transport containers, towering above them. Each was controlled by a pilot aboard the Retribution, linked directly to the mech systems. "Titan units, secure our perimeter," Reed ordered through his comm. "All drones, establish surveillance grid. I want to know where the swarm is digging." As his orders were carried out, a small group of survivors approached from a partially collapsed building. A man in a tattered uniform stepped forward. "Governor Wilson," Reed greeted him. "We spoke briefly before communications cut out." Wilson looked up at the towering war machines with awe. "I never thought I'd see anything like this. When we sent the SOS, we didn't know if anyone would answer." "Where are they digging?" Reed asked directly. Wilson pointed toward a large crater about a kilometer away. "They started there, at the old section of the colony. We built on top of ruins from centuries ago. Most records of what was there have been lost." Reed's team moved toward the crater, the Titans providing cover. As they reached the edge, they could see hundreds of swarm creatures digging deeper into the earth. At the bottom of the hole, something metal gleamed. "What is that?" Morgan asked, using her suit's scanner. "It's giving off unusual energy readings." Before Reed could respond, a warning blared through their comms. Taylor's voice came through, urgent and clear. "Commander, the swarm is converging on your position. At least 500 of them coming from all directions." Reed looked up to see the swarm pouring toward them from every street and building. The sky darkened as more alien ships descended. "Defend this position," Reed ordered. "Whatever they're after, we can't let them have it." The Titans moved into defensive positions, their weapons systems coming online. The drones formed a protective screen, targeting the approaching aliens with precision fire. Reed, Morgan, and Grant activated their armor's weapon systems, preparing for battle. "Modern Defense Force ships approaching," Taylor reported from the Retribution. "They're offering assistance." "Tell them to target the alien ships," Reed replied. "We'll handle the ground forces." The battle erupted in full force. The Titans fired their main cannons, vaporizing dozens of swarm creatures with each shot. The drones moved in intricate patterns, their smaller weapons picking off aliens that tried to flank the team. Reed and his officers fought with the skill of veteran soldiers, their ancient weapons proving devastatingly effective against the alien biology. From his position, Reed could see the modern human ships engaging the swarm vessels above. They fought bravely but lacked the firepower of the Retribution. One patrol ship exploded in a ball of fire as 3 alien vessels swarmed it. "We need to hurry," Reed said to Morgan as they fought back to back. "Get down to that object. Find out what it is." Morgan nodded and began making her way down into the crater, covered by one of the Titans. As she reached the bottom, she cleared away debris from the metal object. "Commander," she called over the comm, her voice filled with surprise. "You need to see this. It's one of ours." Reed fought his way to the edge of the crater and then looked down. There, half buried in the dirt, was the unmistakable shape of a human weapon, one older even than the war machines they had awakened. Reed slid down into the crater, his powered armor protecting him from the falling debris, as swarm creatures exploded overhead. The battle raged around them, but he focused on the object Morgan had uncovered. "It's a pulse array," Reed said, brushing dirt from the ancient device. "Mark VI. These were developed before my time, during the First Contact War." "First Contact War?" Morgan asked, confused. "That's not in any history books." Reed's expression darkened. "A lot of things were erased from history. This technology was created to fight an enemy that used hive mind tactics, an enemy that could overwhelm with superior numbers, but had a central controlling intelligence. Like the swarm," Morgan realized. "Exactly like the swarm," Reed confirmed, working to uncover more of the device. "This isn't their first visit to human space." Above them, Grant directed the Titans in a defensive formation, their weapons cutting down waves of swarm creatures that tried to reach the crater. The sky flashed with explosions as the Retribution engaged the alien ships. "Commander," Taylor's voice came through the comm. "Our scanners show the swarm is changing formation. They're pulling back from other areas and concentrating everything on your position." "They know what we found," Reed said grimly. "Morgan, help me activate this device." Together, they cleared away the remaining debris and accessed the pulse array's control panel. Despite being buried for centuries, the device's backup power cells still held a charge. "It needs a command code," Morgan said, examining the panel. Reed entered a sequence from memory. "Command override. Phoenix Protocol." The device hummed to life, lights flickering on its surface. A holographic display appeared, showing the countdown sequence. "What will it do?" Morgan asked. "The pulse array emits a frequency that disrupts hive mind communication," Reed explained. "If these are the same enemies from the First Contact War, or related to them, this should break their coordination." 3 minutes to full charge," Morgan reported. Reed activated his comm. "All units, prepare for sonic disruption. Switch to isolated command systems." The Titans acknowledged the order, changing their control protocols to prevent feedback from affecting their pilots. The autonomous drones repositioned to form a tighter defensive ring. As the countdown continued, the swarm's attacks grew more frenzied. They seemed to sense the threat, throwing themselves at the human defenses with increased desperation. 1 minute, Morgan called. A massive swarm creature, 3 times larger than the others, burst through a building and charged toward the crater. The Titans turned their weapons on it, but its armored hide absorbed the impacts. "That must be a controller," Reed said, raising his weapon. "Focus fire." The combined weapons of Reed, Grant, and the Titans finally brought the creature down just meters from the crater's edge. As it fell, a strange, high-pitched sound emanated from its body. 30 seconds, Morgan reported. Reed looked up at the battle raging above them. The Retribution was surrounded by alien ships, its weapons firing continuously. The modern Defense Force vessels were fighting alongside it, their smaller weapons proving surprisingly effective when targeting specific weak points on the alien hulls. 10 seconds, Morgan counted down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The pulse array activated with a deep thrumming sound. Waves of invisible energy spread outward in expanding rings. The effect on the swarm was immediate and dramatic. The creatures stopped in mid-movement, their coordination suddenly gone. Some began attacking each other, while others simply stood motionless, as if waiting for orders that never came. The ships in the sky moved erratically, several crashing into each other. "It's working," Grant shouted through the comm. Reed watched as the swarm forces began a disorganized retreat. Without their hive mind connection, they reverted to basic survival instincts. The ships in orbit turned away from the planet, accelerating quickly into space. Within minutes, the battle was over. The remaining swarm creatures were easily eliminated by the Titans and drones. Reed stood at the edge of the crater, watching as the sun broke through the smoke-filled sky. Governor Wilson approached him, limping but alive. "They're retreating," Wilson said, wonder in his voice. "You actually drove them off." "Not permanently," Reed warned. "The pulse array disrupted their communication, but they'll adapt. They'll be back, and in greater numbers." Wilson looked troubled. The modern Defense Force isn't equipped to fight a war like this. Reed turned to look at the Titans standing guard around them, their massive forms silhouetted against the clearing sky. "Then perhaps it's time for humanity to remember how to defend itself," he said, "not with conquest or aggression, but with the determination to protect what's ours." As if in response, the Retribution descended from the clouds, its battle-scarred hull gleaming in the sunlight. The ancient war machines had proven their worth once again. Humanity stood at a crossroads between its peaceful present and its warrior past, and Commander James Reed would be there to guide them through what was coming. The war machines had awakened, and they would not sleep again until humanity was safe.